Is this a familiar sight in your craft room? It can be so frustrating being left with so much waste from your crepe paper flowers. But don't worry, I have 5 suggestions of how you can use up some of that waste. Hi, I'm Michelle from Tarmuchly Paper Blooms, and today I'm going to share with you 5 ways to use up the offcuts and scraps that come from making crepe paper flowers. There does tend to be quite a bit of waste from cutting out petals, which can be really frustrating because crepe paper isn't always that cheap. Every single flower that you make just creates more and more scraps. So how do you use them up? So firstly, I highly recommend you get organised. Store your scraps by colour and by brand. So for example, this is the Leah Griffith pink hibiscus bag. Whenever I have more scraps from this roll of crepe, I'll add them into this bag. I have bags for every colour of crepe that I own, and you really don't need anything fancy, just plain old sandwich bags and a Sharpie will do. The easiest way to use your scraps is to check your bags every time you make a new paper flower. Most flowers will have at least a couple of smaller petals or details, so you can use the larger scraps for those. That's why it helps to label the bags with a specific colour so that you know it's going to match. And if by any chance your petals are quite a bit smaller than the scraps, I suggest you leave the bigger pieces till another time when they might actually be more useful. And also don't forget that scraps of green paper can make perfect calyxes and bud coverings too. If you have strips of crepe paper left over in any colour, you can stretch them all the way out, cover them in tacky glue, and then use them to wrap your stems to add thickness. You can use literally any colour and then just do the final layer in the actual colour you're going to use. So I use this technique quite a bit and it does make such a difference to your finished stem. It looks so much more realistic. My sunflower tutorial is a great example of that, so I will link it above and below for you. You can also use some of your random sized and shaped pieces for this as well. It's just a bit more fiddly and time consuming, but it works just the same. For those very small pieces of crepe, you can use them to make berries, balls and flower centres. Just cover them in tacky glue and then scrunch them together or roll them in the palm of your hand. Then you can cover them with a final layer in your finished colour, or you can even paint them with acrylic paints. I do recommend that you use a lighter colour than the final colour though, otherwise they can sometimes show through the paper. Don't forget about the small details that make the flower too. I'm talking about the tiny spike on a berry stem, or a bud covering that's only just visible beneath the calyx. Those tiny details all start with crepe paper, and so it's a great way to use up the smallest of scraps too. Of course, whatever you do, there will always be some crepe paper left over, but hopefully you found these tips useful to really reduce how much waste you have. Do you have any other suggestions how to use up scraps? If so, please leave me a comment below, I'd love to hear them. I'll be back with more paper flower making tips and tutorials soon, so make sure that you're subscribed to my channel to get notified when the next video goes live. Don't forget to also subscribe to my email list at tarmuchlypaperblooms.com so that you'll be the first to get notified when I launch new templates and videos, plus special discounts that I don't offer anywhere else. Until next time, happy flower making!